Welcome to Pulled Into Letting Go. I'm Mandy Torado, and I had to start a new candle. My candle from the last video, right as I was finishing the video, it burned out, and it's just done. So now I got to clean it out, and I make my own candles sometimes. This one, though, I didn't make. This is from the Tuscany Candle Company. Orchard apple with essential oils. It's a soy blend, so it should burn a little longer. I make my own soy and beeswax candles usually. I've just been lazy since I moved about a year ago and I haven't done it, so I gotta get into it. My next candle, after this one, I'm super excited about. It's a gingerbread cookie smell. Anyway, let's get into the actual reason we're here. I was thinking about what to talk about today, and okay, I'm gonna get into something a little bit deep. Like I don't ever, right? No, I'm gonna get into counseling and what that was like and what you can expect and just my experience with counseling. I have had a lot of it over the years, some of it great, some of it secular, some of it Christian, some of it kind of in between where we dabbled into both. Yeah, so let's get into it. The first thing I want to do though is I want to, you know what, read a scripture. I never read or talk or write without an open Bible. So here we go. Galatians 6:2. And this is the ESV. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. I'm going to start with that one. Why? Well, here's why. When I came to Christ, in the process of that, I was really struggling with a lot of sin in my life. And I went to my pastor at the time, an amazing dude named Pastor Mike. And I confessed to him what was going on in my life. And I told him about the sins that was going on. I told him about the pain in my life of the past. And I was asking for biblical wisdom, like, what do I do? I am so broken and so hurt, and I feel like I've sinned way too much to ever be redeemed. What do I do? Can you help me? And am I too broken for God? And you know what he did? He prayed with me. He prayed with me. And then he anointed my forehead with olive oil in the form of a cross. And he prayed God's blessings upon me. And he didn't just do that once. He did it many, 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 many times over the course of just about a year. He also convinced the deacons and elders of the church to help me pay for Christian counseling, since at the time my husband was in the military. Yes, TRICARE is pretty good, but here's the thing. They don't, at least at the time in 2012, or no, 2010 into 2011, at the time they didn't pay for Christian counseling. So it was all out of pocket. And as you know, counseling is quite expensive. And so the church paid, I think, 100% of it for a couple of months to get me going. And then I think it was like 60% of it after that until I could cover it myself. That was amazing. That was totally amazing. Proverbs 11:14, ESV again. Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. And I realize that that's not necessarily applicable to this situation, but let's just say for argument's sake that it is. When we're broken and we're trying to figure out how to lead our household, as I was as a young adult, with my husband overseas most of the time, because that's the nature of the military. If I had relied on just myself to figure out what to do, which I did many times, I crashed and I failed and I burned and I hurt a lot of people, including my own kids at the time. And a lot of people who loved me and prayed for me and wanted me to get better, but I was having a hard time choosing that for myself. And the more Christians and the more healthy people that I gathered around me, the better I did. When I isolated and I didn't go to counseling and I didn't follow through with my treatment plan, the worse I did. I mean, I really crashed and burned. So as we're going through healing as abuse survivors, we've got to remember not to isolate. That's super important. And it is so easy to do. It is so easy to do. Because I remember being in that Christian counseling, and that was the most intense counseling I had ever been in my entire life. And I would get so overwhelmed. I am by nature an introvert. And I can't be around people for more than an hour without just feeling exhausted, completely exhausted. And so, by nature, self isolation is super easy for me to do because it just feels better at the time. But after a while, it doesn't, because then I'm stuck with all my thoughts and all my feelings and me, right? And as we know, when we're unhealthy, what do we need to do? We need to go to a doctor, right? Well, as Christians, Jesus is the emotional health doctor, but he also sends wisdom and the abilities to counselors to help us, to other Christians to help us. So, and we're to encourage others in the way that we've been encouraged. I wouldn't have gotten that encouragement if I would have continued to self-isolate. So that was important. One of the things that I want to caution people about when they do look for counselors is you want to find somebody friendly but professional. You don't want a friend. You want a professional, friendly person. Okay. I had a counselor who I went to her for too long. It was about 2 years, two and a half years that I went to see this person. This was early 20s before I was married. I went to see her for way too long. And towards the end, she was asking me for advice, which was totally inappropriate. And I was going to the session overburdened already, wondering, oh my gosh, can I handle her problems today? It was not a good fit, obviously, right? We crossed boundaries there. She did. And I allowed it because I was broken. I needed help. I didn't know better. So that's why I'm cautioning you. Watch out for something like that. You should never be asked to take on the burdens of your counselor, one you're paying for. Now, if it's friends, well, that's a different story, and you guys are going to have to work out those boundaries, right? Another thing to look for in counseling is you want to, oh boy, this was another bad experience. You want to find somebody who is focused on the sessions. So it's really good to have boundaries surrounding the sessions, right? When you are in the room with your counselor, generally, almost all the time, because life happens, they should be focused on you and what you are saying and your treatment plan and your goals that you've created with your counselor. Not continually answering the phone, texting people, sending emails in the middle, like personal emails. And I'll tell you a short quip about that. I had a counselor for one day. She was trying to sell her house. Out of 45 minutes of our session, we maybe talked for 15 fractured minutes because she was constantly texting her real estate agent, answering phone calls from her real estate agent, sending emails to her real estate agent, and she was very visibly stressed the entire time. It was bizarre. It was bizarre. That was one of the counselors that TRICARE ended up paying for, and I was not happy, and I did let them know. So, and don't be afraid to report counselors who exhibit unprofessional behavior. I had a counselor for about 6-ish months. About 4 months in, I was pulled aside at leaving one of the sessions by the director of the counseling center where it was at. It was through the county. Yeah, it was through the county of where I was living at the time. And she let me know from now on, if it was okay with me, our sessions would be recorded. And I thought, that's a little weird, but okay. So I allowed them to be recorded. Well, it got me to thinking, why would sessions need to be recorded? So I started paying more attention to what was going on in my own sessions. And I found out that the more deeply I shared about my pain and my past and the sordid details of the sexual abuse that I endured, the more my counselor seemed to enjoy hearing it. I mean, like, it was strange, like weird smiles on her face, laughs at inappropriate times, crude jokes made. And so I ended up reporting her and for what was going on. And I made a formal complaint, and little me, I was like shaking at the desk, and I'm like, can I do that? Is that okay? Asking the secretary, and she's like, oh yeah, it's okay. And that should have sent off bells in my head, but so I put in the official report, and it was like a week later, I get a call from the same director of that center asking me for more details, to follow up and follow the paper trail. And so she was, taking notes as I'm talking to her. And then she's like, okay, we're going to continue to record your sessions if you want to continue to make sessions with her. I understand if you don't. And I said, well, do you have anybody else for me to go to right now? They didn't, because it was through the county, and no, and I was still on my parents' insurance at the time. And so I went, okay, well, if this is all I've got, this is what I'll take. It's better than nothing. So I kept making, I think it was bi-weekly sessions at that point. I'm sorry, this was like 20 years ago, so I'm trying to think. I was like 19 or so. Um, and so I ended up writing up 2 more reports before I left. Before I left that center, completely just distraught over what this counselor was doing. Similar things. She even once alluded to the fact that perhaps I had enjoyed the abuse in some sick way. And I understand to an extent why someone would think that, but that is completely inappropriate, especially after all I had shared with this counselor, for her to say that. Turned out I wasn't the only one making reports against this counselor. It was just extremely hard for them to fire her. And that's why they were recording sessions and trying to encourage patients to write reports when necessary. She's no longer allowed to practice in at least 2 states that I know of. So that was interesting. That's definitely something to look forward, or not look forward to, but look for in your counseling sessions. Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel heard? Do you see progress being made? When you sit down and make a list of goals or a treatment plan with your counselor, you should be given a copy, if not ask for one. And what I would encourage you to do periodically throughout your time with that counselor is take some personal accountability and look at that treatment plan and look at your goals and say, okay, am I doing my part to meet these goals? If not, well, ask yourself why. Is it me? Is it the counselor? Is there something in my life that needs to change in order to accomplish these goals and this treatment plan? Is it the counselor? Is the counseling just not effective for some reason? It doesn't necessarily mean you have a bad counselor. Maybe you guys just don't mesh. Um, maybe you don't mesh. Maybe it's just not the right person for you. I've certainly had that before too. I had a male counselor one time that he was great at what he did. He had a very high success rate at helping people heal. He just wasn't the right person for me at that time in my life. It just didn't mesh for some reason. But I knew several other people that went to him, and they thought he was fantastic, and I thought he was a great person, just didn't work as a counselor for me. So, and the opposite has been true too. I've had counselors that I've went to that were great, worked wonders for me, and other people just didn't quite mesh right. That's okay. That's okay. Move along, find someone else. But don't do what I did with that one counselor, where I thought, better to go than not have anything. Mm, Sometimes it is better to just walk away and maybe lean on a friend or a family member or clergy or just someone from your church or something for a little while, and have them kind of walk alongside you and help you find something else, because becoming more unhealthy and backtracking is not better. It's just not. So, and then always, I encourage you to begin and end counseling with prayer. Um, if you're going to a counselor that's not okay with that and that's just all you have for right now, cool. Do the prayer on your own before and after. I really encourage you to do that, because I am absolutely certain that you're going to find healing faster, and you are going to accomplish your goals and your treatment plans so much faster. And it's going to be in bigger ways than you even thought possible. So, and hey, if your counselor isn't Christian, it's a great way to witness to them. Great way to witness to them. Miraculous healing is not something that all counselors expect. I've noticed that in my time in counseling too. Sometimes, and even with doctors, sometimes they just expect you to stay sick because you've been sick for so long, and they think, oh, it's just all in their head. Well, no, it's not. Not necessarily. God can do big things, and He can do big things through broken people. I know. I've been very broken in the past. So, and nothing is too small or too insignificant to share with your counselor or your doctor, which is the final point I want to make. Never think that just counseling or just medical care is enough. And do not be ashamed or afraid to try medication, especially when you're first starting out. It really can give you the boost you need by, I just completely lost my train of thought. By balancing your hormones or your emotions or any chemicals in your brain that are imbalanced. So when you get those balanced, and sometimes it takes medication to do that, it can really help fast track your healing and help you think more clearly. And sometimes it can help clear up some of your medical stuff that's going on too that maybe you didn't realize was going on. Work with a team of doctors. The best healing that I ever had in my life was when I had a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a doctor working together. And I think for part of that time, actually, rather than a doctor, I went to a family nurse practitioner. Still great, still fantastic. I've had very good luck with family nurse practitioners. So don't discount them. They are fantastic. So, and they're almost like a doctor. I forget go ahead and put it in the comments below if you know the difference between the two. I can't come up with it off the top of my head, but there is a slight difference. But they are fantastic. But work with your team, because you want a holistic approach to healing. Because when you're so broken, when you're upset, when you're depressed, when you've been down for a while, it does often cause some medical issues, and you will need to have those checked out. And it just fast tracks your healing. And I'm not saying you need to go to the doctor as much as you're going to the counselor necessarily, but do check in. Do check in and do make those appointments. And take it seriously when they tell you to exercise and eat right and drink more water. Oh my goodness, since changing my diet, it has greatly affected how I feel. I am currently off of all of my medications. I've been off of them for, my goodness, 9 months now, I think. Yeah, 9 months now. I never thought I could do that. I never thought I would be off medication, but I am eating almost a full clean diet. I think it's about 80-20. 80% clean, about 20% naughty. Drinking a lot more water, consuming a lot less sugar, a lot less carbs, although you will never take bread away from me. I'm sorry, but no, bread is important. I love bread. I love to make it myself too, but another tangent. Um, yeah, and don't take it personally when your doctor asks you to lose weight. It's not about your looks. It's really not. It's about the way that you feel inside. After I had my fourth baby, I put on like 60 extra pounds after having him. Like this was after giving birth. And I could not get it off. I could not get it off. And I've been working on it and I've lost about 40, I think 40 pounds. And I still have more to go, obviously. But I'm working on it and it feels fantastic. Also, join a gym if you can. Some insurances will pay for a gym. Some, like your HSA, health savings account, or whatever that is. Forget exactly. But some of them will allow you to deduct that from your taxes for paying for a gym membership. So look into that. I actually had a doctor um, prescribe weight loss surgery for me, and I said, no, thank you. I don't want the easy way out. I want to do it myself. And well, I've lost like 40 pounds since then, so something's working, right? um, Find a gym that feels right for you, and we can get into that in another video if you want. All right, this is running long, and I'm sorry about that. I hope I haven't bored you too much. I hope I've given you some good information, or at least entertained you somehow. And look, soy candles are the way to go. It's only burned down a little tiny bit the whole time I've been rambling, and it smells really good. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with something really nice. I love you, but more importantly, God loves you. Have a blessed day.